For small compact SUVs, there's a lot of rivals, but there's only three that really ring a bell when it's comparing to this all-new model from Volkswagen, and that would be the Honda HR-V and your Kia Seltos. Today, I'm going to do a little comparison, and we're bringing you from Volkswagen of Newport Richey the 2022 Volkswagen Taos SE in your pure gray. This is a front-wheel drive, bold styling, that's what you're going to get. All-new SUV model from Volkswagen, standard digital cockpit. It's going to be in that more upgraded interior. IQ Drive, which is an upgrade, we have that today. That's going to include your adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blind spot monitoring, forward collision, reverse, or rear cross traffic alert. So you're going to have the safety, you're going to have all the latest technology that's inside or embedded in this Taos, and you're going to get that styling cues that just make it a little bit more sporty. And if you need it to be sporty, opt to the all-wheel drive, so it'll give more of a dynamic drive. Otherwise, if you want to save fuel, go to the front-wheel drive. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides, and we're going to go over all the specs and details starting now. The all-new Taos is going to be a little bit underneath the Tiguan, but it's more or less about the same size. It's going to be a little bit different when you're comparing it to that Honda HR-V or the Kia Seltos, because the width, it's going to be a wider sit at 72.5 inches. It's also going to be taller at 64.4 inches. The ground clearance will be a little bit less than the Kia Seltos, but it's still good at 6.4 inches, and I like how the grille has the honeycomb design that integrates into the Volkswagen badging. You're going to get the silver over the top, and it goes into these auto LED headlamps and LED daylight runnings. The hood, it's going to be flat, laid downwards, enough proportions and aerodynamics that's going to go into the fenders. Going into the lower part of the bumper, you're going to get the gloss black. You're going to get it also around the side air curtain, which is functional, so I do like that. You'll also have the honeycomb in between, and it's almost like a three-part bumper, so it really gives more of a sporty styling comparing it to the HR-V. When you're comparing it to the Kia Seltos, you're going to have to spend a little bit more money to get some upgrades to get it looking to this performance styling, and this is just the SE. So therefore, when you're comparing the two, the styling cues on the fascia, this one's going to look a little bit better. The hood will be separate from the quarter panels, flaring out the fenders just a touch with the matte black over the top of them, encasing these 5 double spoke black alloy wheels. The front disc reading at 12.3 inches, it's ventilated. 10.75 is the rear. You're going to get your McPherson strut front suspension with your lower control arms. The rear, a Torsen beam. Both the front and the rear will have your anti-roll bars, your coil springs, and your telescopic dampers. Strong aerodynamic lines and cues, that's what you're getting with this, especially comparing it against that Honda HR-V. Comparing it against the Seltos, I like the styling cues of that one. It's really traditional SUV, more box structure, very similar to this. Chrome that's going to be over the lower, and on the top, it's going to be blacked out. So they do give a sport/luxury element with the Taos badging. Gloss in between, chrome surrounding it. Side view mirror caps, same color as the body, and even on the lower skirt, you got a little bit of proportions that flare out. I just wish that it was a gloss black, so that way it would really stress a little bit more performance. I know, it's not necessarily a performance vehicle, but when you get into Volkswagen lines, typically you like to have that feel to it because it's a turbo at the end of the day. The length at 175.8 inches, wheelbase 105.9 inches, which is more than both the HR-V and the Seltos. So the interior space should be more as well. The roof rails, we received the silver over the top, gloss black for the shark fin antenna, a lower roof spoiler. The gloss black is going to surround the rear window as well. LED tail lamps, and that's what you would expect out of a Volkswagen. Now the towing is not going to be the best. The Kia Seltos beats it at 2,000 pounds, but you can still do 1,500 pounds, which is more than the Honda's 1,000 to 1,100 pounds. A payload of 937 pounds, which is insane for a small compact SUV. There's no dual exhaust, but you do have these here that make it mimic the exhaust pipes, which is pretty nice. And you'll also get the grille design in the lower bumper as well, with the silver over the center, and it almost looks like a diffuser. I know it's not, but it still has some nice styling elements to it. Best in class for cargo when you're comparing it going inside to 27.9 cubic feet. There's storage on both of the sides. Underneath, you'll have your spare tire. Rear bench split folds to a 60-40 split. That's going to max that cargo to 65.9 cubic feet, which when you're looking for space, you get it with the Taos. The all-new Volkswagen Taos sets that image for a sporty, dynamic styling cues on the exterior, weight distribution at 5941, and they're going to pack the performance with a 1.5-liter TSI turbocharged inline four-cylinder producing 158 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque that's paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, achieving 28 to 36 mpgs. That's going to be the best comparing to Honda or the Kia. The 0 to 60 is not going to be the best. Kia will take it, but it's at 7.6 seconds, and the curb weight is around 3,100 pounds to around 3,400 pounds. Stopping 60 to 0 at 129 feet. So you could do pretty good maneuverability if you need be. Quarter mile at 16.5 seconds. So you do have the numbers to project to get you on the highway, to get you pretty much anywhere you need. And the fact that you're getting that eco-friendliness out of a sporty design, let me know in the comments what you think about the all-new 2022 Volkswagen Taos SE. As we go into the interior, go over the tech, and take this for our test run. Entering inside the Volkswagen Taos, you're going to receive 40.7 inches of headroom, which is right at the best. It's pretty much tied with the HR-V. Legroom at 40.1, it will be the least comparing to the Soltus or the HR-V. The seats are going to be a gray cloud tech with cloth inserts, contrast stitching, heated, 10-way power adjustment for the driver, 6-way manual for the passenger, which is something that I always complain about, but the modern dash really does set the appeal with the blue that even goes into the door panels. And with that dash setup, you're going to have a gloss black, you're going to have a matte black, you're going to have a lot of different styling cues that just make you feel more upscale, modern, sporty. You'll have a storage right here, just like the Tiguan. So I do like that they are putting that in here. The infotainment screen is an 8-inch. We do have the gesture, which is pretty nice. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and Mirror Link. AM, FM, HD radio. This one does not have navigation. However, click into your assistant settings. Here you can turn the functionality on and off by just clicking on the icon, which is super cool. Click into your vehicle. This will just give you a summary of normal driving. With voice control, 6 speakers, Bluetooth connectivity as well. Switch to reverse. You got the lines, they don't move. You can't do anything for your towing. You can just change the color scheme on it. But at the end of the day, you're not really going to be towing too much with a smaller SUV. In the center here, cup holders, the 16.9 ounce water bottle fits pretty nice and snug. I'd say a 20 is relatively max. The gear lever is going to have the leatherette around it with that gloss black on the top. And I kind of wish this wasn't a matte black, but it goes into your wireless charger with 2 USB-C ports and a 12 volt. Open up in here and you're going to have some pretty deep storage. However, it's not going to be so wide. But again, smaller SUV. The width of the interior, it's going to feel a little bit tight, but it's optimal in the space that they use. 3-spoke leatherette steering wheel with the cross-stitch multi-function. The best part, you got the gloss, you got the silver, and you're looking at Volkswagen Digital Cockpit, which you can configure it the way you like on both sides, which is pretty nice. So you can put your navigation, you can put your compass, you can put any type of different display, or you could just leave it as a no display and just see the miles per hour. So it does look more futuristic and upscale, and that's really what we're going after for this particular model. Elbows are going to be pretty soft for the most part. Door panel, harder materials on the top. That blue, like I said, goes into it. One touch up and down for your windows. No leatherette, but it is a soft material. Storage, you can easily fit 4 or 5 16.9 ounce water bottles, which is pretty efficient for a smaller SUV. Let's check out the back seats. For the back seats, I'm at 38.8 inches of headroom, which is the best comparing it to Honda or the Sultus. Legroom at 37.9 inches, which is going to be the least, unfortunately. In the center, you're going to have your air vent. You're going to have a little storage tray that maybe you can fit some change. One USB-C port. So we're lacking with that. You do have storage behind both of the front seats. The floor isn't completely flat, so it may be a little bit of an obstacle for me when I sit in the center, but we're going to see how it fits. As for elbows, it's going to be super soft here, a little bit more firm on the door panel. Cup holders, you can fit a 16.9 ounce water bottle. I would say a 20 ounce max. As for the door panel, harder materials everywhere. There's only soft materials where you rest your arm, no leatherette, anything like that. Storage, you can fit another 4 or 5 16.9 ounce water bottles, so that is pretty good. The seats do feel a little bit more firm in the back seat though. So when you're sitting in the front, it's going to be a lot more comfortable, whereas in the back, it's a little bit more firm. Let's see how I look in the center. Sitting in the center, headroom, no issue. Legroom, I'm not really grazing anything, but I am blocking the central air vents and the only USB-C port. I am sharing real estate on both sides and feet space, and there's also this little area here where the seats go into the ground, so it kind of makes it a little bit uncomfortable for me. 10-inch is my size for a shoe, so you would probably be good around a 6 or a 7. Anything over that, it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. You're going to be moving around a little bit, and it's going to be a little tight. The nice thing about the back seat though is if you do fit 2, you have a sufficient amount of room for shoulder space and butt space, but fitting 3 is going to be a little tight. You only have one USB-C port, so it's going to be tough to really fit more than 2 occupants back here without somebody wanting to use a charger, or it's going to just get a little bit more tight in the fitting. Taking the all-new 2022 Volkswagen Taos SE out for our test run. This one is going to pack the most performance and bang for your buck, comparing it to the Honda HR-V and the Kia Sultus. You're over 50 to 60 pound-feet more on the Honda and Kia with this one. That's crazy. Horsepower as well is an increase of anywhere from 12 to 19 horsepower. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is whenever you're considering to get a vehicle that is smaller and for an everyday use. When you drive over speed bumps at a lower speed, you can see it's going to be a lot more firm. It's more of a sporty, dynamic suspension. As for the interior looking out, the windscreen is nice and large. The A-pillars are kind of pushed back a little bit, so they kind of mimic Honda the way they did it. Just the A-pillars are a little bit larger in this model compared to the Honda. As for the side view mirrors, they are huge. I mean, makes it nice and bulky. It almost feels like a Tiguan when you look out from the sides, which makes you feel like you're in a larger SUV, even though that one's a small SUV as well. But when I look in the back, you can pretty much see everything. The windows are nice and big, turbocharged, inline 4-cylinder. Not a huge horsepower or torque. Stop in the middle of the road, here we go. And again, the front wheel drive is going to be more, like I was saying on the exterior, for fuel economy. When you want it to be a little bit more of a sporty drive, you're gonna opt for the all-wheel. With the front wheel, this is also the best in class with gas consumption compared to Honda and the Kia. So there is a lot of pluses. The price points of the vehicle, it's going to be right around the same price. I would say this is mid-grade. Kia is going to be a touch over. Honda is going to be maybe a little bit less, but it's pretty much right on the ball. So I do like that they do that. As for the dynamics or the steering, it's going to be ultra light, and you can see it's not necessarily the best in dynamics, but it's sporty at the end of the day. I wouldn't be doing cornering in it. This is more of an everyday drive. At a rolling start, 158 horsepower. And then the brakes. Does a good job on both perimeters. Again, anything under 8 seconds, you're going to be pretty much spot on with the traffic, so you're not really going to be racing it. The main concern with these turbocharged engines, because they're smaller, is when you get up to a higher speed, around 60 to 70 miles per hour, the vehicle feels like it's starting to die, more or less. It doesn't really want to go, so you'll hear that engine just spool up, just woo, really loud, but you're not really going that fast. So what happens with these categories is I would recommend maybe not trying to do such harsh maneuvers at the beginning. Get used to the vehicle. With the IQ Drive technology, you will have a semi-autonomous driving as well. So that is something that does help with that, because you got your adaptive cruise control, your lane centering, your blind spot monitoring, your forward collision, and your reverse collision as well. So that way, when you're pulling out of a parking, it helps you. It's going to alert you that there's a vehicle coming, because sometimes when you get your groceries, people are just rude. But I mean, smoothness, you have it. Drive quality, I do like it. It feels like it hits more at around a 2.5 RPM for that turbo. Noise in the interior, you hear it through the wheel wells predominantly. Everything else is super quiet, no dual pane windows either. So that is something that it's kind of really good that they did a great job with the sound dampening, because when you're going on a long journey, just with these wheels, 18 inches, it's going to make it a little bit louder, and it feels a little bit thinner whenever you're hearing that road noise. Stopped in the middle of the road, put it over in the Tiptronic, so that way it's more of a sport. There is no sport mode. This is an 8-speed. All the competition is a CVT. Here we go. The dynamics is fun. As you get up to a higher speed, the filtration goes completely out the window. It becomes a lot louder. It is a fun car though when you put it in the Tiptronic. If it had paddle shifters, I feel it would be a little bit more fun and playful, but I do like the fact that it feels more sporty when you put it into that, opposed to when I was just driving it normal without and letting the vehicle change the gears itself. It's a little bit more precise when you do it this way, and you can actually get a little bit higher on the RPM. Now there is 3 things I like it, 3 things that I dislike. Is anything more than that, I'd be buying this vehicle. The 3 things that I like about the vehicle is that it does have the storage space you need. Yeah, you're gonna have a little bit less leg space in the rear, and they do take out some amenities, which I'm gonna be talking about the disadvantages shortly. But for the most part, you got good cargo, 1,500 pounds of towing, it's pretty good, nearly 1,000 pounds payload. This is a small SUV, so that is pretty good numbers, especially with a 1.5 liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder without having the power to back it. It doesn't even have 200 pound-feet of torque, so that's good. The second thing that I like about it is when you put it in the Tiptronic and you give it a go, it is ready to rock and roll. So you can see you do get up pretty quick. The third thing that I like about the vehicle, 10-way power adjustment seats. That is crazy. However, manual for the passenger. 158 horsepower. We have to beat this Kia Soul. We have to. And we pull out 184 pound-feet of torque. So you do have the maneuverability, like I was saying, and you can beat the Kia Soul if you need be. There it is, so that way you can see. Braking a little bit harder, and I didn't use the Tiptronic, so that way you can see the difference. Turn radius at more or less a stop point is going to get about 2 lanes solid, so it's not too bad. Dynamics will not be as playful, and they did this with the Mazda 3 hatch, putting the torsion beam in the rear. So when you change anything of those dynamics, it's going to make it a little bit more like the whole car shifts. It doesn't do any type of turning. 3 things that I dislike about the vehicle is going to have to start off with the interior. Everything is hard materials. Even in the back seat, it's a little bit more firm. They just really stripped out everything from the dash to door panels, no leatherette. And that is something, I mean, we're over 30,000. I wish I would see a little bit more leatherette. The second thing that I dislike about the vehicle is in the back seat for your feet space. It's pretty tight because of the way the front seats are positioned, the way they put them in the frame of the vehicle. You actually will be hitting them quite a lot, and it makes it significantly tough, I would say, if you fit any more than 2 people in the rear. The last thing that I dislike about the vehicle is you have almost 160 horsepower. It needs to be about 175, but even with the numbers that we're projecting, we are the best in class with performance, comparing it to the HRV or the Soltus, and yet the 0 to 60 is almost a second slower than the Soltus. The weight distribution is not very good either. They made the dynamics not as playful as Volkswagen normally does, and that's really a big thing to me, because usually when Volkswagen builds a vehicle, the dynamics, the suspension, everything is built around engineering and they look at the geometry of the vehicle to get you the best capabilities. Or what they do in the Audi line is they'll give you a 4-wheel steering. But with the 59-41 weight distribution, I wish it was a little bit tighter. I like to thank Volkswagen of Newport Richey for giving us this 2022 Volkswagen Taos SE for our car review. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Hawkeye community. If not, click that subscribe button, check out the details, the merchandise, the website, and everything we do here at Hawkeye Rides.